Sound like that worked first time? What?
Oh my word. We had a countdown. You're on the screen. We didn't have camera. Like, what the? It must be February 5th.
There you go.
I have no idea what that means, but welcome to Living Courageously Exposed, the February 5th, 2025 edition, whoop, whoop, with your host, Jennifer Saunders, spelled JJ, and
Leah, spelled Ligia.
I know it's just not as funny, but I'm gonna keep doing it anyway. I love it. Okay, and man, I took last week off and had a lot of stuff going on, a lot of life, like shaking off and moving around and shifting and shaking, and I'm excited to see what comes out today. There's a lot of growth and conversations that I've been having with other people that they're like, holy cow, like, Jen, are you feeling it too? Like, are you? Yeah, I'm feeling it. I think lots of us are feeling it. So I'm excited to get into that conversation today with Leah. I'm so glad she could join us today. So this is a podcast. Living Courageously Exposed has been around for a while. I put it under a pseudonym for a little bit, but we're coming back to branding. It feels good. It feels right. And so this is a podcast where we're building community and giving voice to those who are doing it differently, going against the grain, and learning to flow, while also kicking the door open for those of you who are learning to do the same. It's a celebration of human spirit and a call to live courageously. Often, wow! All of a sudden, that word was like authentically. Let me start that over again. It's a celebration of the human spirit and a call to live courageously, authentically, and unapologetically.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. And real, unfiltered. We're not cutting that out. It's just, this is life. We are here really to make being human normal. To normalize being human. Like, it's, guys, I don't know. I'm done with that one. So any housekeeping things that you can think of, Leah?
In this moment, not so much. Other than if you are someone that hangs out on TikTok, check us out there. Yeah, I think that's the newest thing.
I love it. Will you just check the Facebook and make sure that
I'm on it. We're good.
Now it's showing live. Mine wasn't. I was like, okay, we're good. Yeah. So exciting when like all the things technologically work out the way they're supposed to, and I don't have to have ticks because they don't.
Right.
So one of the advertisements, I guess this is an advertisement, I was going to say housekeeping things, is one of the fun things that I get to do is I'm a race director for the Spitfire Ultra Trail Challenge. So if you're a trail runner or a runner or just a walker or a hiker and you want to come have a fun experience hanging out with myself and with Leah and like 50 other amazing volunteers and probably close to 300 runners, like, we have an amazing event for you on April 19th. I would love to see you come and show your courageous self. Like, give yourself to the volcano. Come and hang out. See what the energy is all about. You can register there. Ooh, did you see that glitch? You can register for that. We've got a 5K. We've got a 12K. We have a 30K. And we have a fat 55K. Why do I say fat? Because it's a little longer than 55. So you're going to get your money's worth. Really, this is a cool opportunity to run on two of the world's largest tufted volcanoes right here in Manan, Idaho. You're going to get views of the Tetons. You'll get views of the big old sand dunes, the winding Snake River, the desert, the dunes, it's awesome. Plus you get to come hang out with us. And that's what we love the most. So head on over to spitfireultra.com to get yourself registered. And if you've got any questions, reach out. Like, I think that's my biggest housekeeping thing right now. And hey, also, if you have a business or you're just someone who loves to sponsor things like this and assist other people in doing hard things and accomplishing challenges in their world, we're looking for a few more sponsors. And so reach out. We would love to chat with you and see what we can do to serve and assist each other. So with that, oh my gosh, let's breathe. I feel like I need to breathe. We always start with just a little bit of breathing. It's a beautiful practice, and it doesn't have to be anything hard or long or laborious. And so I love doing it on here because, as you can tell, I get excited to get started. And it's a way for me and for you to let go of anything that's happened in the day, to let go of anything you anticipate happening in the day, and to just be right here, right now, present with ourselves, with each other, where we can let our mind, our heart, and our gut do what, Leah?
Ride the wave. Right.
Yes, coherence. I was just waiting for that. Mm-hmm. It's such a beautiful, quick exercise that we can do to slow down, especially when we find ourselves getting excited, or whether that excitement is like actual excitement or excitement out of frustration, and we're finding our energy ramped up, and can lead to decisions and outcomes that aren't very pretty. Collateral damage happens a lot when we react versus respond. And so today I'm actually going to put a little focus on directional breathing. So we're going to breathe a little more through the rib cage today. I know that often we invite you to breathe all the way down into your belly, into your sit bones, and to fill all the way up. And today I'm actually going to invite you to do directional breathing. So we're going to keep it more up in the rib cage, but today I'm going to have you focus on, my friend Deborah called it chicken. Did she call it chicken wings? You're going to put your hands on your chest. You can't really see. Hands on your chest. Oh man, I have to really shut up. And you're going to breathe so your rib cage moves out this way. So when you breathe, your arms will actually go up a little bit. So a lot of times when we breathe, we're going to push out. Today we're going to push out from the side. Don't be frustrated if you don't understand it at first, you're not feeling it. It's about just slowing down and taking some breaths. But today, so you're just going to breathe in. Hold that. See if you can push those ribs out to the side, and then really release all the air from your lungs. One of my clients yesterday was telling me about a term. Oh, I can't even think of what it is, but it's a term where you can actually die from not releasing all the air from your lungs. It's usually in asthmatics, but so just making sure you release all the air. Get rid of all the old dank air hanging out in the bottom of those lungs.
Dank air.
Push it out. One more. Get those chicken wings up. Now just take one big full breath. Breathe it in. You know what I realized I didn't say? You can do this with a downward gazed or eyes because we're doing directional. It's kind of funny. I just noticed patterns. So I would love to hear about your experience with breathing, whether you're a skilled practitioner of it, or it's new to you, or you're just starting into it today. Just take note of what you felt. And if it's frustration because you didn't like whatever it is that you felt, I would love to hear about it in the comments. But I'm going to really encourage and invite you to get into the habit and the practice of just several times in the day, just pausing and taking a big, full, longer breath than you would normally take. and let it go. And when you find yourself in situations where your emotion is like going up, thus your intelligence is going to go down, breathe. Just take a big, deep breath or several of them. Walk away if you have to. Breathe and then come back and just see what happens. So, all right, with that, let's move on. Let's move on. I'm excited about today, although I don't even exactly know what's going to take place.
I was going to say, how can you be excited? Other than just venturing into the unknown can be exciting and just like, where do I go with this?
Well, this is the thing about that, though, Leah, is our spirits love the unknown. Our souls came here because it was unknown. That's my belief system. And that we get so caught up in patterns and routines, and that we know the truth and that we know the answers and we have all these things, that our souls kind of get bogged down and bored, and they start poking at us. They poke at us because our souls call for adventure. It calls for learning and growth and like doing new things. And our souls push us into the places of unknown and discomfort, because that's where amazing stuff happens. Not that amazing stuff doesn't happen in our everyday living and in our comforts, but just the really like yummy nuggets happen in the unknown. So that's why I'm excited.
I love it. That's a lot to be excited for. It just reminds me of when we get reading Osho.
Osho. I wasn't going to say it because...
I love your reaction to Osho, because it reminds me of when I first came across him, and just like how much truth he spoke to my soul. And it just, you have these inklings, but I think, well, I'm going to speak for myself. I didn't have anyone to share those experiences with, like, or the thoughts I was having. And when you did, people give you that kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever.
A little bit of side eye.
Yeah. Right. And I think it was one of the times where I really just felt like, okay, I'm not crazy. Other people think like this too. And that's what I love about when we got talking, that it was like, for the first time, I really felt like, oh my gosh, this person gets it. This person, like, I can speak this language with them and they don't think I'm crazy. So I think it's such a freeing feeling. But he talks about the known, and how that can be our prison, and the known is dead, right? Whereas the unknown,
and the known's not faith.
Yeah.
I love that. The known is dead.
Yeah, because it's already been done.
It's past. Yeah.
Well, and we think about where we are right now, and if you follow spiritual teachers and that, like, where you are in this moment is the result of the thinking that's already been done. The thinking that you had got you to where you are right now. So it just gives me a whole different outlook on, like, we're actively creating all the time.
Right. So that means our thoughts right now are going to create what's going to happen. One of my favorite, I love that you just said that. I was listening to, now I don't remember what I was listening to. It was an interview between Lewis Howes and Joe Dispenza. I was looking over there because I've got Joe Dispenza books on my bookshelf. I could see his face, but his name was like, and one of the things that stood out the absolute most, that and you just like brought it back to memory, is and I wrote it down. Remember the future.
Remember the future.
Remember the future, because it's already happened. It's already happened. Like I have a belief system that says those pieces come and teach us, and those are the things, like, our future self is pulling and calling us forward, and we fight really hard. We're like, oh yeah, no, I want to be that one back there.
Right.
But when we can let go and do what you just said, have faith and oh my gosh, trust, which is actually us, and remember the future, like, I was going to say, damn. And then I thought maybe I shouldn't, but there it is. So
there it is.
Oh my gosh. Leah, what are we talking about today?
So I think we were gonna kind of dabble in the idea of what it is to be a villain, and our thoughts around being a
Ooh.
villain. And I had this experience yesterday. I've been really drawn to yoga a lot lately, um, and I'm finding like an unwinding in my low back and the tightness in my hips, and with that has come this flow of energy coming out in writing or in painting or um, and in pain. Like I've had some more pain, but I've had a different relationship with that pain lately. But I had this experience at yoga, and it was like I found myself sobbing. We were in some sort of stretch, and thank goodness it's a hot yoga class. The music is loud.
Water's leaking out everywhere anyway.
Yeah. So like I'm sobbing at one point, and the thought that like really struck me, as I'm working through this idea of what it is to be a villain in someone else's story is I had this idea that if I was good enough, if I was perfect enough, if I did enough, if I just like presented this way to everyone in my world, that it would erase the hard things in my past. Like it would make them not it's like I wouldn't have been that kind of person that those things would happen to.
Okay, I was going to say erase. What do you mean by that? Before we go on, I just want to say, hey, a shout out to our viewers and those who are listening, and just thank you for the energy that you lend to us. I see that Cynthia Clark has said good morning. We can't wait to have you on as a guest, Cynthia. So thank you for joining us today. I think Cynthia actually really can because she's on here and she's made a comment. I know we have people who understand what you're saying, Leah, and who can identify with those thoughts and feelings. And I'm going to dare say that Cynthia is one of those people. I know a little bit of her background, and oh my gosh, we can't wait to have you on a guest. So Leah, tell us a little bit more about when you were saying if you could just be good enough, or if you could be perfect enough, that it would erase. I think you said who you were, or that you were that type of person, that maybe that wouldn't have happened to you. Go a little more into that, so that someone who maybe is sitting in a similar place or doesn't have words for that, you maybe just give them some words of what that perfectionism was for you, or what that just go attitude was for you, as far as erasing or shifting what happened, what the experiences were of your past.
Sure. I think so. Like many of us, you grow up, your parents do the best that they can. And sometimes, you come away with ideas of what love looks like, and how to show up, and how to interact with people, how to get your needs met. And, going through a lot of self-destruction in my teen years, trying to find a place of belonging, trying to find a sense of home and love. You come across a lot of really difficult things. And I found myself, once I had some sort of like safety or something to hold on to. And in this case, it was a relationship, and it was a sense of safety. Like I had a home. I had moved like 13 times in the span of 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And, so I had a lot of instability. I was young. I was between like, 15 and 18, going into 19. And
okay, will you just give a little bit of, like, you're moving 13 times in 3 years. Can you give just a little bit of background? Like, I don't want to go into that whole story, but just a little bit of background of like why that took place for you. For as a listener, I'd be like, what the hell? Like,
so
I know. So just
sure.
a snippet.
So a snippet version would be, I grew up with a Latin family, right? Our family came to Canada when I was very young. And so they came with their own culture. I was raised in Canadian culture, which was very different. And there was a lot of clashing that way. So to try and mesh those two worlds together, I just struggled a lot because I love my family, but I also knew that there was a different way to live. And I went through several years of like, I call it making a career of not wanting to live in my early teenage years, and like just trying to end my life in any way that I knew how. And I didn't know a lot. And then because I was in the hospital for a time, I started to see life in a different way. So when I came back home, I couldn't jive with what was happening at home. And so I started speaking up.
Because is this because you just said you started to see the world a little differently? Like you could see what was like, actually your truth versus what was going on in the home? Like, is that
so kind of... It's like when you grow up and this is how we do things, like that's all you know. But when you take time to be away from something and then you're shoved back into it, like you've had that space to realize it helps you see where the dysfunction is or where the hurt is. And when you come back into it, you can't unsee it anymore because it's so obvious to you.
So it's
being treated with a level of respect, for example. And, so I would start to speak up to that. That didn't jive well with, the father figure of the house of like, I'm in charge. Who are you to question me? And then my mom stood up too. And that was like, oh shoot. Like, I just remember his face when that happened. And then it was like the first time my mom ever stood up to him in front of me anyways. And shortly after that, I found myself being kicked out of my home and driven to a bus shelter 45 minutes away. And the last thing my dad said to me was like, do you have any money? And I'm like, how would I have money? And then he drove away. So then after that, it was living at friends or at a women's shelter for a time. And I moved like 13 times in those years. And then when I found a sense of safety in a relationship, the way I could kind of like not look at that part of my life and just like I think looking back, it was my way of running away from it. And that I thought if I could just be good enough for this person. Oh shoot. Did I lose you? Oh,
no, we're here.
My computer just went black.
Oh, yeah, you're still there.
Like, what's happening? If I could just be good enough for this person, and if I could just like be giving enough and understanding enough, and like that I wouldn't have to go through all the things that I had gone through. I just had this idea if I could just do it good enough, then none of those things would ever happen again. And I wouldn't have to be that person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I appreciate the background, just so like as you continue forward and we continue in this conversation, that there's a little bit of context of like why we're talking about these things and maybe why those feelings. Everyone has their own story as to why, if I could just be good enough or I can just be perfect enough. And I just appreciate yours. I also know a more full version, and I also know the challenge that it's been for you to really own that and grasp it and be able to talk about it. So I just want to say thank you for your courage and your vulnerability, and for the projects that you're working on now, which is part of where this conversation is coming from. And just thank you.
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's go back to, if you felt like you could be perfect enough, or, I just said, that's funny. Or good enough that it would erase those things. So how's that playing out for you now? Like, why is that coming into your presence? And like, what are you working through with those kinds of things? I guess go where you want to go with that, but that's just kind of the question in my mind.
Yeah, for sure. I think really what comes to mind is as I'm writing about being the villain. So I had this experience, I don't know, 6 to 8 months ago, when I realized no matter what I do in this separation from my partner before, I can't do anything right. And no matter what, he's going to portray me as the villain. And I realized in that moment, like, I just get to be okay with being the villain of his story. As I'm writing.
No, that's me. It's all of a sudden.
Okay. I was like, what's happening?
Yeah, I went to answer a comment and the volume popped up.
Gotcha. And then I just had this experience of like just the freedom of that moment of like, because I was in a place of justifying and explaining and trying to make it right and help him see what my intentions are. Like, I just kept looking for validation and approval from him, and I just, and no matter what I did, no matter what I said, it was twisted, ignored, or it was made wrong. Like, it was just made wrong. And so I had to, like, when I accepted the idea that I'm just going to be the villain, and that I don't have to continually try to be a hero in his story or a hero in anyone's story, that I get to be the hero in my own story. And, I think of the story of Maleficent. I love that story.
I absolutely do too. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I would highly recommend. It's a Disney movie. Watching. There's two of them. Watch them both. It's a beautiful story.
Yeah. But just, when we first see Sleeping Beauty, you just see her in the evil space, right? You don't see what brought her to that place, and the ways that she was hurt, and the ways that she was misunderstood and vilified, when she was just trying to live a peaceful life. And I related so much to that story, and it had a whole new meaning to me. Is like, people are not born bad. Life and situations kind of form them that way, and they do it just to not lose themselves. And I'm not advocating for cruelty and all of that stuff.
Absolutely not. No. I love P.S. I do not do the adding comments and paying attention as well as you do, just FYI.
Okay.
But look, I did it.
Yeah.
I love it when in our conversations, we talk about how being the villain in someone else's story doesn't mean you're a villain, and that when you choose to be like, make being a villain in someone else's story okay, because you're choosing yourself. Like, oh, I totally just slaughtered that thought, but just because you're choosing yourself doesn't mean you're actually a victim or a villain. It means that you're choosing yourself. Someone else may be losing what their version or picture of you is, or what their story or their expectations are. And so therefore, that's what causes in their mind for you to be a villain. It doesn't mean you're a villain. It means you're choosing your own strength, your own power, your own voice, your own magic.
Well, and the more you explain yourself and try to defend yourself, and you're feeding your insecurity to that person, you're reinforcing the ideas that you're not enough, and that you have to explain yourself to be okay, and that you have to try and make it right for everyone else, while you're sacrificing your sense of self and your own worth and value to try and make someone else see you. And if they're,
it's like, damn, how many of us do that? We're taught that. Just FYI, we're taught that, and we're really great learners when it comes to that. My phone is still talking to me. I thought I had the volume all the way down. And so knowing that, like, give yourself some grace. Like, if you start recognizing this in your own world, If you're living in a relationship, and this happens in all kinds of relationships. It's not just families, and it's not just marital relationships. It's all kinds of relationships. Give yourself some grace, and recognize that it's not about your perfection and you being good enough. It's about you learning to use your voice and recognize your own power and to do what it takes to stand in it, which can be very, very challenging.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Would, and I'm sure we've heard this all at some point or another, but would you rather be liked or would you rather be respected?
Oh, I'd much rather be respected.
You say something else often to me is like around trust, right? And that you say, I'd rather you trust me than you love me, because if you trust me, you're gonna love me, right? And it's just this idea of like, it doesn't have to be earned necessarily as like how you show up. And if I have to bend who I am and make myself small to fit in the image that you want me to be, that's not about like a give and take relationship. That's about me moving in a way that makes someone else comfortable. It's not about owning who I am. It's being more concerned with someone else's comfort.
And I appreciate you bringing that up. Like even in so one of our favorite things is word energy, and I don't think we have like and respected. So will you just write that down?
Sure.
Or stick it in the comments, so that our guests can have the reference to that as well. In your thoughts, Leah, what is the difference between? I know what it is for me. The difference between like and respected, but like when you ask that question, what are your thoughts?
So
I think you really just gave way to them in what you just said, but
well, I think of like the idea of nice versus kind.
Right.
is what comes up for me. Is like nice to me means like that I tell you what I think you want to hear, that I'm being nice and I'm feeding that part of you that needs validation, that needs
well, and it's also that keeping the relationship comfortable and cordial and smooth.
Yeah, not wanting to rock the boat.
Yeah.
Not wanting to make waves and whatever. But to be kind means that I'm gonna speak honestly. I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna be mean about it, but I'm gonna say what's on my mind, and I'm not gonna hold back because I'm afraid it's gonna create distance between us if I say something that you might not want to hear.
Well, and I'm also a huge believer. It's energy. There's an energy in niceness and there's an energy in kindness. And there's also a different energy in just speaking your thoughts versus speaking from kindness. Kindness comes from the heart. Just speaking your thoughts, that's an ego thing. It's a mind thing, and you can hurt people.
Sure.
You do hurt people when you just speak that way, but you can say the same things through kindness, and it's received differently. Even though you may be saying the exact same things, it's received differently because the person on the other end goes, it's felt at a heart level, it's felt at a soul level, and they can assimilate the words and process the words differently and go, wow, that I didn't really like how that felt, but at the same time, I'm willing to be open to what was said and to look at it and to see like where truth is in it for me and what the value is versus when someone just speaks their mind and just says what's on like that. There is a difference there, in my opinion.
I agree.
And it's also different from just saying the thing, like you said, of just keeping things smooth and not making waves. Like that's crappy too. And some people feel that.
I think they do. And I think it's a challenging thing to address at times because We don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. We don't want our ideas and thoughts to be taken out of context. But at the same time, if we can't say how we feel, then what kind of relationship are we really in? How does it serve one another to really know one another? If we're always playing in this surfacey space.
I fully agree. I just was noticing, just going to give it a couple more shout outs. I see a couple other people we know on here. Our love from over on in the Salmon Way,
Susan,
a sister from Salmon. Thanks for being on here and just for your comments and for always loving us. We appreciate being part of the family.
Yeah, I love it. It's been too long, Susan. It's been too long.
Yeah. April's coming. I'm just going to say that April's coming. Okay. So again, like just kind of bringing back to like, I know this is really present in space right now. Like it's okay to be the villain in someone else's story. So how's that playing out for you? And how do you feel like, owning that piece or that possibility of being a villain in someone's story, how do you feel like that's helping you heal? How do you feel like it's helping you progress forward and maybe even make all the projects and things that you work on even better? I don't love the word better, but that's what I'm going to say, even better.
Sure, that's fine. So it makes me kind of laugh because something that writing does for me is it really opens up a channel into what it is I'm actually thinking, like what's actually going on in my head.
Right.
And sometimes some of the things that come out really surprise me. And so I'm working on, I think it was a description for the book or something. And I
is this what you read to me this morning?
No, that's something different.
Okay.
But something that came out for me was like, it's not the hollow promise of inspiration, and it's not about. I wish I had the actual phrasing because it made me stop in my tracks and look at how I've been trying to present my story and where I gathered these messages and the way I look at the world. And it's like that. We've all had a really crappy day. And what's the worst thing that can happen when you're having a crappy day? Someone with good intentions tries to placate that of like, oh, just imagine yourself a river and everything is happening for you. And in those moments, for myself anyways, like I love you, but I want to punch you in the face because you don't get it in that moment because it doesn't, I don't feel it that way. And I know it. Yeah, probably did. I know it. I understand the concept, but in myself, in my being, I can't feel that. I don't see past the darkness. I can't feel past that darkness. And sometimes I just need time to be in that darkness. Yeah. And I think the way I've been writing and the way I've been sharing is in the mindset of this girl who was just trying to be good enough, who was like trying to erase her past by trying just to be so damn good and like saying yes when I didn't want to say yes, and just how much could I do, how much sleep could I sacrifice, how much could I give to everyone, how much could I make my well run dry and still keep digging to find more water so I could give some more.
Okay, I want to make sure that this piece that went by really quickly is heard. Did I hear you say that you've been writing from a place of that girl? Like in your writing about the girl, you've been writing from the space of that girl who was doing all the things that you just described.
Yeah, like I think of my book, Living with Dirty Glasses. When I look at that book and who I was when I wrote that, I think I was still really processing a lot of things that I knew were important to talk about and share. But I had never shared those things since it happened. And there's some experience in there where I had physical releasing and body memory and like flashbacks like crazy. And it was such an experience. But I was still writing from the that happened, yeah, but this is how, look at how good I'm doing, look at all these things, look at all the things I can do. And
that's what I'm saying is you're right. I thought I heard you say you have been writing from that girl's perspective, and now this owning the villain. If I'm hearing you correctly, this being willing to own that you're a villain in someone's story has shifted that for you, and there's a healing space, and I'm hearing and seeing, and I also have seen this stuff. This shift into honoring that girl, not writing from her space, but honoring her actual story and writing from where you're at now, from a more healed place, a place of seeing those experiences with a different perspective, and that it doesn't define you. It's just shiz that happened. Like, am I hearing?
Yeah, like in what's coming through me right now, it's more a place where I'm honoring that I have some anger, and I have some like no nonsense feel about me. I think I was just always really good at giving excuses to people and justifying what, they're just hurt people, and that's why they do what they do, and that I was big enough to carry those things for them, and that I wanted to save them. And all the while I'm like drowning myself, like you talk about that as feeling like you're being pressed on, but I was doing that to myself. And I think having this recognition through how it feels edgy for how I write and how I share.
It is edgy. Like
it
is edgy, but it's also real and raw.
It's that
people can really grasp onto that because you give them something to actually sink their teeth into, and the teeth of their emotions into, and go, that I get that. Like, that's what that, like, it is. It is.
Like, I have this thing with, like, I don't want to come across as angry. And I know we've had this conversation before of like what anger means, and how, often as women, we avoid that because of it gets us away from the nice girl and the good girl. And, the things that we were taught give us love and approval and right? Validation. But there's a part of me that just feels like I'm done messing around. I'm done trying to make it this, I'm going to use the word airy fairy.
I love it. Really, really quick, while we're talking nothing about airy fairy, just quick, I just want to shout out to the people who are watching us real quick. I'm seeing your names pop up. Heather, Deborah, Nikki. Hey, thanks for taking time out of your day to just like spend some moments with us. I appreciate it. Because we all have this stuff. Like, if you're not getting a chance to watch the full episode, like, head on over and hit the replay. We would love that, and share it out with others. The work that's coming from what Leah's talking about right now it's beautiful, and it is real, and it's raw, and it's going to touch hearts. It's going to touch places that I believe many people will be able to relate with, no matter what their experience is. And so I just really appreciate that you're sharing, and that you're in this place of, I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this since I met you, to see this piece of you actually be able to talk in a, like, you've taken the covers off, you've taken the soft gloves off, and you're talking about it in a way of owning the experience and recognizing that it's just an experience, and that you don't have to patty cake it anymore. And I just think it's such a beautiful, I know it's raw for you. It's so beautiful for me to watch. It gives me permission.
I find that fascinating that you could see that. Like, no, and that you say it like, that way.
You remember who you're talking to?
Well, and I just think of places where you're like, why are you still defending that? Or why are you still talking about it so wishy-washy? Like, why Why aren't you owning those things? And I just, because it's scary. It's scary to show up that way. It feels,
100%.
it's like you're taking off a layer and you feel exposed and you feel like, this is so not what I've been living for the last, 20, 30 years.
I love when you talk about raw and exposed. I love this picture you painted for me in my mind one day of when you were going through some different phases of healing, and you brought in the Marvel character that's like he looks like a rock. Like I don't know his name. I'm not like, it's just not, all that stuff's not in my memory. But that character that just has all the, and you're like, it feels like those pieces are being taken off, and what's under them is just like raw flesh, exposed and tender, and this stuff is. And for our listener who is listeners who are in that place, we hear you, we see you, we get it, we live it, which is part of why we do this, because we want you to know that you're not alone, and that the real and the raw is sometimes just downright crappy and painful sometimes, and we just want you to know you're not alone. I can see Cynthia put stuff on there.
Yeah. So sometimes in healing work, we think we can skip over the really ugly corners.
Yeah,
That
right.
isn't how it works. This is where we have to hold space for the beautiful gift of all the emotions. But these are the loudest parts of ourselves that deserve to be heard, seen, and validated.
Cynthia, I 100% agree. And this is, again, something Leah and I talk about. We've talked about it in regards to our own experiences and the experiences that other people share with us. Is it's just that. It's just an experience. That's all. That's it. Now, do some of those create ouchies and hurts, and we bury them because we don't know how, or we're unwilling to pull the thorn out at the time, and we just put band-aids on, and yeah, that's real too. But going back and looking at them, it doesn't define who you are. Like it's an experience. It's an experience. Now, I'm not taking away from the pain of and hurt and depth that can be in some experiences, and how damaging it can feel. And the reality is, it's still an experience. It doesn't define you. And there are ways to move through it. And so I appreciate, Cynthia, just the reminder that we get to look at all the ugly things, or all the things we're perceiving to be ugly or making ugly. And we could, wow, there's a whole bunch of tangents we could go on here. We're going to save some of that for Cynthia's interview.
I love it.
But keep going, Leah.
I'm not even sure where keep going is at this point. Can you remind me what we were talking about?
We were just talking about like how it has led you to write or be in a different space to talk about being able to own the fact that you're a villain in someone's story, and the recognitions of in your writing, how you were writing from that girl, still wanting to protect or not talk or cover up those things to show the perfection, like who you are today, but in reality, not really giving the full story. I was also saying that I'm super excited to watch you own this stuff, and to recognize that it's just stuff, and to see how you're moving through the world when you actually go back and honor those experiences, and honor the girl who went through those experiences, and all the beautiful lessons that are in those experiences.
Thanks for that recap.
You're welcome.
I think there's a freedom to that. I think sometimes when we hide those pieces of ourselves and we don't honor the full story, we hide not only that part of our story, but like we hide those real pieces of ourselves, and we can't really know ourselves or allow other people to know us in a way that's really meaningful and just in a deep way, if we don't honor all those stories. And I think places. So like it just changes how you move in the world. I think of places where I've been really afraid to stand up for myself or to speak up, to use my voice, and it's easier to stay hidden because somewhere in the back of your head you're like, what if someone finds out? What if, somewhere there's still, I didn't realize for myself that there was still a shame for me of some of those past experiences, and that if people knew, that universal fear, if people really knew me, they wouldn't love me.
I really appreciate you saying that. It kind of makes me think of when I started talking about like let's make human, like being human, normal. Like all these experiences are things that most of us go through, and sometimes we go through all of them, sometimes we go a few of them. But like when I started talking about like as a younger person, like that I lied, that I stole things, and how freeing that is. Like it's vulnerable to say those things because people are still willing to spread judgment, even though they've probably done the same damn things. But to be able to talk about it and go, or if it comes up, you go, yeah, that was part of my learning experience of being younger. Absolutely. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean I'm proud of that, but at the same time, there's not an attachment to it. It's that I did those things. It was part of my experience. It's part of what helped me grow into the value of truth and honesty, and why that's so important to me. But I don't know that I would have necessarily felt that way had some of those experiences of being younger not taken place. Now, I know those are like really benign examples, and there are plenty of others, but just to make the point of like, I used to have an ego when I sang, and I wanted people's applause, and I loved it when they would come up and say things like I wanted that. And the experience that I went through of one day singing somewhere and then leaving the building without anybody saying anything, and recognizing that and having a greater understanding of why I do what I do. Now, I'm not saying it's not nice to have the applause, because it is. We're human. That stuff feels good. And it's really nice when people say, "Oh my gosh, that was a really beautiful thing." And I can just say, "Thank you." Or, that's just part of being human, but it's learning like why am I doing the thing? And then being able to own like, "Oh my gosh, my ego totally got in the way," or
right.
And to recognize it's just an experience. And yes, some of them are really freaking hard, and they're painful, and they can cause deep wounds. They still don't define you. They help. I feel like they just help bring out more of who you actually are when we're willing to do that. I'm getting my own experiences right now of shaking things off, and wow, that just struck me. My own recognition of how much I stood in a past version of me, and what I wanted to present, or how I presented according to that, and my own versions of maybe being the villain in someone's story, or trying to be perfect enough, or doing enough, and all the things, and how that's played out for me, and like really honoring that version of me and that person that lived those experiences, and being able to stand in the here and now as a more grown soul, as a more evolved human, and learning to speak differently, and to own those pieces, and to own the stronger wings that come from it.
I love that you bring that up. It reminds me of a conversation we had earlier about where we find ourselves, and that we're not sure what the next step looks like, or it feels out of reach. And it feels like, how is that ever going to happen? How can I let go of this? Because this is, just to take those words, the steal of a deal, and I
I said
remember,
those words, FYI, and I got them handed back to me on a platter.
yeah, because when you said that, I was like, something in me just went, no.
Oh, she totally just disappeared in the middle of that story. So we were talking about, and that reaction that you just got from her, that you just saw, was exactly what I got, only with the verbiage of like, you're living in an old story, like you're living in a small self and a small part of you, and you saying it's a still deal is just you living out of ego and fear. And it was quite an eye-opener for me in that moment to recognize what I had said and to have it given back to me in a way that was like, oh, okay, I can see that, and I can see how I've been living from this person over here, because it's really easy. It's that shedding of the skin and really stepping into the new version of you. And I just was noticing Cynthia's comment over here of, we can finally let go when we lean in and love these parts. And I just say 100% absolutely amen to that. It makes such a difference when we stop judging the things that have happened to us. And and I just heard myself say, and for us, because things don't happen to us, they happen for us. And we recognize like growth comes from them. And my mind's in like 10 different places now. I'm also wondering if Leah's going to come back. So I would love to hear, oh, here she is. I would love to hear in the comments where maybe you have been experiencing some of these similar things of an experience of recognizing like you're actually the villain in someone's story, and instead of seeing yourself as a villain, owning the fact that, like, why are they seeing you like that? Have you taken some of your own power back? Are you speaking up for yourself? How are you doing things differently than what you've always done, instead of complying, doing it their way, always just trying to be perfect and doing more and serving more and giving more and losing sleep? How have you become the villain, and what's the actual beauty for you in that? Welcome back, Leah.
Thanks. I wasn't sure if I was actually up yet.
You're up. So I just kind of, you can finish sharing. I kind of gave the nutshell version of you left like this. And so yeah. Do you want to share really quickly what I just told them, that it was interesting to have my words handed back to me and to see how I was speaking from a smaller self versus this more developed part of me.
I just think it just really struck me of places in my own world where I'm like, but it's such a good thing. I have such a good thing here, and how could I let this go? And then I'm like, when you said that, it was like, but you're not that person anymore. You can't keep operating from that place because you've grown so much. And to help, recognize, and it's not like I was consciously thinking of any of this, but like in that moment, I just want to be like, I wanted to shake you and be like, hello, like, you're not that person anymore. This is a pattern. This is what you and I talk about all the time.
That right there. And I think that's probably a good way to like wrap this up, because I do have another appointment. But that right there that you said, it's not you. It's a pattern. It's a pattern that's running. And sometimes they're so deep and they're so, they just go round and round and round. So talk to us a little bit to that.
The patterns that we get caught up in?
Like that you just said, it's not you. That's actually, it's the pattern. It's this old habit, this old thinking. It's an old belief. You're something and somebody different. Nikki, I see you. Um, I haven't read it yet. I will read it.
Oh, I'm totally reading it. So it says, I'm definitely a villain in someone else's story. I've learned that once I owned my faults and was able to share my faults, not just theirs, it helped me grow so much. I know the wrong I've done in my life doesn't define me as a person. We really do learn from the things we do wrong as well as what others do wrong to us.
Yeah,
I just love that.
I fully agree. And Nikki, P.S., we need to get together because I have some maple syrup for your kid.
Yes, she does.
I appreciate you sharing. I know that's been a rough go.
I love Nikki's comment just because it's like that's the whole point of owning your villain is recognizing that we all do good and bad things. We're not perfect, but when we want to avoid being the villain, we're trying to be the hero, and we're trying to be the hero at whatever the cost is, and defending that story.
But I'm going to change that up just a little bit. It's not even that we're doing good or bad. We're making mistakes. We're learning, we're growing, we're bumping into things, and we do dumb things. And it's not even necessarily good or bad. That's a judgment. In my opinion, when it's a label, it's a judgment of the actions, because we really don't know what's going to come from them. We definitely can do things that harm people. Most definitely.
Yeah.
I don't believe in good and bad.
I just love Nikki's comment just because it doesn't matter what. It moves from what other people think of me to what I think of me.
Yeah.
And that's where your power really lies. It's not about being mean. It's not being dismissive. It's just being unapologetically you and owning your truth, even if people don't understand it, they don't agree with it. Yep. And that you've got your own back enough to stand in that power. So thank you so much.
It's such a beautiful thing. And I love watching the growth in people who are experiencing this, which the reality is we're all experiencing this to some degree or another in some kind of relationship or another. And it's so beautiful. Another comment that went along with Nikki's that I don't know if you saw it, Leah. It's one of Cynthia. She said, we can finally let go when we lean in and love these parts. And again, that leads to what Nikki's saying here. And it's just beautiful how we all have our experiences, and then we can put it in our words in a way that other people, someone's going to see Cynthia's comment and go, oh yeah, I get that. And someone's going to read Nikki's and go, oh, that makes so much sense, but they might not understand this, even though they're saying similar things. And so I really appreciate the courage to write it and put it in here, because it will assist other people. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, and a shout out to Ashley too. She wrote, not being the feminine girl society and family wants me to be. And that can be a tough place, especially I'm going to say at your age, Ashley, just because you've lived most of your life doing what you've been told to do. And now you're at this precipice that this doesn't work for me anymore, but I'm still kind of drawn to that. And I still see love and approval there. But it's challenging to take those steps towards what feels right for you, and what makes you feel alive.
Right. And continuing to build the strength of our own wings and the strength of our own voices. And to do it in a space that is kind. Like, it's okay to speak. I always say, speak your heart, not your mind.
Yeah.
And they can say the exact same thing. It's just received differently, whether it's coming from the authentic, true parts of you or the ego parts of you. So I'm going to write that I'm going to have you write that in the comments.
I think it's so important when we talk about any of this stuff is having those boundaries. I know for a lot of us, boundaries can feel really scary and feel like we're being mean, and we're not creating space for other people. But it's not about being mean. It's just about holding to what's true to you. And it's your own safety that no matter what happens outside of you, you have you. being and not having to explain them, not having to do the things that make other people around you feel better, but doing what feels good in your own heart.
Snap. That's such a beautiful way to end. And I feel like the only thing really I can add to that is just to say, we recognize that it can feel like a challenge to own your own heart and to own and speak your own voice and to stand in your strength and power, and that we got you. If you're not in a place yet to like really get yourself, we got you. And we're here to give you a hand up and lend our strength to you as you, we're not giving it to you, but we're going to lend it to you. And we're going to be an extra source of power for you as you learn to, I can't wait to hear you have to say, until you can stand on your own. And then you know what? We're not going to leave you. We're a beautiful tribe, and we just honor your stories and your experiences and just say thank you for being with us. We just love you. We love us, which allows us to love you.
I just want to add one small point to that and have you share just a little bit, without getting into details, what it feels like to stand in your own power that way and be able to honor yourself and your boundaries that way. What's that overall feeling that you have when it all aligns?
Nothing like put me on the spot, Leah.
No, it's just a word. I'm just looking for a word. You don't have to say anything else. It's just that sense of what?
Oh, geez.
No.
Are you looking for something? Have I said something specific?
Yes, you talked about this sense of calm.
Oh, yeah. Well, because the first thing that, like, when you say that, I'm like, well, I trust myself more. But yes, there is a calm that comes from that, because I am coming more home to myself. I am more in touch with my heart and my voice. And
you feel...
that was the other word I was going to say, powerful. I feel powerful. Is that what you wanted me to say?
Yeah.
But the calm, because the calm can be there, even if the water is tumultuous on top sometimes. When you own those pieces of yourself, they don't any longer own you. And there is a depth and there is a calmness that runs underneath, even when things start to get a little bumpy up top. And so I really appreciate you bringing that out. I've had some experiences recently that have reaffirmed that for myself. And
I'm so damn proud of you, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm pretty damn proud of me too. It's a journey. And for you who are watching, we're pretty damn proud of you as well. All right. I got a header. I'm going to be late. We love you. We appreciate you. Leah, thank you for sharing the villain stuff. And you guys keep your eyes and ears open, because it's coming in a way that you can have it in your hands. You can read it for yourself and share it out with friends. If you find value in this episode today, please share us out. Let others know that we're here. Help us build our community. We're happy that you're here, and we would love to have others as well. With that, remember, be bold,
be brave,
be courageous.
Oh, shoot. That's right. Be courageous.
Be rebel. I know it's such a habit. You guys, we changed that intentionally. Yeah. We changed that intentionally. It doesn't necessarily flow off the tongue as smoothly. Obviously. But it does bring us back to the heart. Let's do that again. Remember, be bold.
Be courageous.
Be a rebel.
There we go.
We'll see you soon. We love you guys.